Sunday. It is May 17th, and I am very happy to be here. This is my second renewed uh, YouTube video where I am focusing on ministry. And when I say ministry, I do not mean a formal religious um, deity or sect. It is a ministry that is about fellowship and community and learning about the Word of God and Christ. And it will also be a ministry that brings in other text more than what typical religious organizations use. Texts that are prior to the change of a lot of the texts that are used today. So I wanted to kind of tap into when I do these things, I will be focusing on like a human side of change and transformation and things that we go through in life, because that's what I believe that Christ really wanted to teach us, is learning how to live in life on life's terms, with people that we don't agree with and that we agree with. And it isn't necessarily to be right. It isn't necessarily to control. It isn't control, and it isn't about being right. And it isn't about, who has more money, who has more toys, who has more skills. It's just about being human beings on this earth and developing a spiritual intuition that continues to grow throughout our human experience. And as I said in the last video, I kind of put things aside with the ministry because I was a little overwhelmed and I really didn't know what path I wanted to take my ministry down. I knew I wanted to do ministry, and there's a number of things I want to do with ministry, as far as community and fellowship. But I wasn't sure how to take this YouTube channel or my school community. So, as usual, I got myself a little overwhelmed, started a number of different things, and ended up being more confused than focused. And after some time and kind of getting away for a little bit, some people might, sabbaticals are usually where you're deeply into studies. My thing was deeply into sorting life out and sorting my value system out, and sorting out what I don't need and what I want to keep. And what I've learned is that if you're not doing what you love, then you're not doing your purpose. And I believe that we all have a purpose on this earth. And most of us, a lot of people, spend their whole life never knowing what their purpose really was and being very unsatisfied with life. And they go through the motions and they can be very successful, or maybe they're not successful at all. But a lot of times it's because they don't have their purpose in focus. And, it took me a long time to realize what I truly wanted in my life, what I wanted to give. And when I give that freely with love, it automatically comes back to me tenfold. And if you hear that noise in the background, it's my dog. She's very noisy. She's a mix of an English and an American bulldog, and she's got that snory, nasally sound, and she's loud and obnoxious. Anyway, that's her. It isn't any demons or anything in the background. It's her, and her name is Sienna because she's reddish brown. So, anyways, as I was saying, that a lot of us go through life never ever really knowing what our purpose is because we just kind of go through the motions of what society tells us we need to do. And we never really follow our heart. We follow the rules. We follow society. We follow what our parents tell us we need to do, what the schools tell us we need to do, and we forget all about the heart and the soul. And it's the heart and the soul and the spirit that bring us to our true purpose, what we truly love, and what God and what we agree to, the soul contract that we agree to prior to going into our mom's womb. There's an agreement that we make with divine spirit or God. And when we make that contract, our souls never really get satisfied until we follow that soul contract. I don't know if that's making sense to anyone or not. I hope it is. Let me see what this says. Let's see. I don't know what that is, and I'm going to close it. So, so for me, like I had said, I kind of got a little lost, and I'm sorry, someone just called me, and they went to a funeral yesterday, so I just want to let them know I'll call them in a bit. So, so I got a little lost and confused and overwhelmed, and all those human experiences we put ourselves through. And what I also found out was a lot of that confusion and a lot of that overwhelm and anxiety and just not feeling right with myself. A lot of it came because I got away from my purpose. I got away from my heart. I got away from my soul. And I found myself filling my plate. I mean, my plate was still very, very full. But it wasn't necessarily full with what I'm supposed to be doing and what I am designed to do and meant to do. And I started my spiritual journey over 40 years ago. It was about 43 years ago, a little more than 43 years ago. And I was never, ever a religious person. I think I always had this idea. I know I had an idea of God because when I was 6 years old, I lost my baby sister, and I adored her. I mean, I adored her. And every day I would run home from school, and I just would want to, the first thing I wanted to do was go and make sure her little toes were still there and her little hands, and I would want to see her smile, and I just adored her. And she had gotten pneumonia and ended up passing away when she was about 5 months old, 4 or 5 months old. And that was my first experience with death. And I didn't understand it. I didn't understand what was going on. All I knew was this little being that I treasured was no longer in my life, and I didn't know where she went. I didn't understand it because we weren't a religious family. And it wasn't until I heard and saw my father cry, because I never saw my father show any emotions except for anger. He was crying, talking to his Uncle Bill, who raised him as a child, because his mom and dad had both passed away or his mom passed away. I don't really know the story. Anyway, he was crying and he said that God took her. And it was at that moment I had an inkling of understanding of God. And like I said, we weren't a religious family. It just wasn't there. It was a very dysfunctional, angry household, and we were at that time a family of 6, and I had 2 half siblings in 2 different places, and they were sisters, but they were in 2 different places, and so we were a unit of 6 kids and 2 adults, and it was very dysfunctional. And I found myself on my knees, and I stood. There must have been a statue or something on this table, and I was on my knees in front of it, and I was praying to God. I said, I thanked him. I thanked him for taking her because I knew now that she would be safe forever. Sorry. And I think back on that today, and it's like, that's a very unusual thing for a 6-year-old child to do. And when I thought back on it, I never thought about it again. I mean, I thought about my sister for a while, but I never really thought about that action until I was finding spirituality again in my life. And I realized that I did have a deep sense of God in my heart. And I knew that God was good. And I knew that God could protect the innocents. I don't know. I didn't really know that God could protect people that kind of fell down the wayside. I didn't have that belief yet, but I knew he could protect the innocent. And my little sister was innocent. So my spiritual journey started when I came to a bottom, a physical, emotional, and spiritual bottom in my life. And I came to a place in my life where I knew I needed to make some drastic changes. And I was doing crazy things. I shouldn't say that either, because you know what? We're all God's children. God loves us all. We all, have faltered along the way. I was hanging out with people that I was like, let's just put it that way. And I didn't like who I was. So I knew I had to do something about my life. And that's when I turned my life over to God, and a 12-step program that helped me to begin a change in my life. And that change, the first thing I got back was the physical, then the mental, and the last thing to come was the spiritual. Now, in reverse, the first thing that left was the spiritual, then the mental, then the physical. And it was when I was looking like the living dead and things were being brought to my attention that I was able to see there was a problem. So it's funny how when you put it all down, it comes back the opposite. The physical is always the easiest, to bring back. It's just like today. I mean, it's when I'm dying inside, it's easy to make the outside look good, but it takes a lot of work for the inside to heal and feel better. So anyways, things, I started down the spiritual path, and that was over 40 years ago. And as a young person, I always felt like the teachings from the church just did not flow right with me. They didn't feel right. They didn't sound right. Um, I always believed that God was a loving God. I always believed that knowing myself as a parent, it didn't matter what my children did. There's a song by Trisha Yearwood, and I had gotten it on a Christmas album, and it was the first year that my oldest son, after my oldest son had passed away, he was 15 years old, and it's called The Sweetest Gift. And to this day, I listen to this song, and it's like, yeah, that's the greatest gift, a mother's love. And there is no love greater than a mother's love. And I know that. I know that because my mother loved me. Um, to this day, she loves me, and she brings me signs that she's watching over me. Um, and I know that I love my children no matter what. I have 3 children alive, and 2 of them are basically disconnected from me, and one is in my life, and I'm so grateful for that. But I also have, you know, extended family that look to me and tell me how I was like a second mother to them, or like a mother to them, and that's a gift. That is a gift when somebody can love you in that way. So I mean, my whole thing was not going to be about parenting. It's funny. Um, so, anyways, let me just make this a little shorter. So, in my journey, I've kind of gone down a number of different paths. I went to college for one degree, and then another degree, and then I worked for a number of years as a special ed teacher, and then I retired, and I came to the southern states, and I went to college again for theology, and I became an ordained minister in metaphysical spirituality. And it is what I love. It is what I love. And I also took classes to become a master Reiki practitioner, and I love doing that. Um, and I love, working with crystals, and I love working with essential oils and doing readings through cards. And I know there's a lot of people that believe that that's all evil and heretic. It actually says in the Bible, and I don't quote. I'm not going to quote you what chapter and verse, because I'm not sure. I'd have to kind of figure it out. And but it does say that it's evil when those skills, those spiritual skills, are used for evil or for telling fortunes. And I'll tell you a little quick story about that. And Spirit definitely put me in my place. I I do my pendulum every once in a while, and I'll ask the pendulum questions, and my grandson, who's going to be having my first great grandchild, they were having a reveal party, and so I wanted to be a smarty pants and show him, well, I'll tell you what the baby's going to be. And so I did the pendulum, and he wanted a boy, because he's deathly afraid of having a girl, because he's a boy and he knows. So it's kind of like that typical, it's not that I wouldn't love a girl. It's just, boy, oh boy, I'd have to be, on my tippy toes, because making sure she's safe. And so he wanted a boy, and of course his girl wanted a girl, and so I did the pendulum, and it came out that he was having a girl, and he let me know. He was more than happy to let me know, your pendulum is wrong. Your spirit was wrong. They are having a boy, and that's what I'm talking about. It's like I was I was using the skill to ruin their moment of surprise. And it wasn't my place to tell them what they were having. That wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. And it was funny because I learned that really quick. Um, and I know that people do that all the time when they have them lay down and they do the thing. You know, I ask spirit. I don't just do the pendulum like the satanic way that they do it. I ask spirit to answer certain questions, and um, very often, more often than not, it's correct. Um, so, anyways, that's just to let you know that that's when it's not right. When you're telling fortunes, when you are trying to use these powerful skills that we all have on evil things, low energy, to do bad on others, to wish bad on others, and and I just I need to make sure that I teach the right thing, and I don't use my skills for that purpose ever, um, and I never will. I don't care. I just never will. So, well, this is perfect for me to go right into what I was going to read in the scriptures. So, I have 1 Corinthians 12, um, 12, 1 through 14. Um, so I'm going to read that right now, and then we're going to talk about that. And this basically tells you that God and Christ are saying, people, I'm giving you these gifts. You have these gifts. Reiki is the laying of hands. That's what that's all about. The laying of hands and healing. And it's not me, I don't do it. It's spirit. It is the divine spirit, God, that comes through and through all of my energy chakras sends out healing energy to others. So let me read this 1 Corinthians 12. Now, concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I would not have you ignorant. Ye know that ye were Gentiles carried away unto these dumb idols, even as ye were led. Wherefore I give you to understand that no man speaking by the Spirit of God calleth Jesus accursed, and that no man can say that Jesus is the Lord, but the Holy Ghost. Now there are diversities of gifts, but the same Spirit. And there are differences of administrations, but the same Lord. And there are diversities of operations, but it is the same God which worketh in all in all. Sorry about that. But the manifestation of the Spirit is given to every man to profit withal. For to one is given by the Spirit the word of wisdom, to another the word of knowledge by the same Spirit, to another faith by the same Spirit, to another the gifts of healing by the same Spirit, to another the working of miracles, to another prophecy, to another discerning of spirits, to another divers kinds of tongues, which is channeling, to another the interpretation of tongues. But all these worketh that one of the self-same Spirit, dividing to every man severally as he will. For as the body is one, and hath many members, and all the members of that one body, being many, are one body, so also is Christ. For by one Spirit we are all baptized into one body, whether we be Jews or Gentiles, whether we be bond or free, and have been all made to drink unto one spirit. For the body is not one member, but many. So again, God has given us these gifts. And for us to ignore the gifts or to give the gifts, how should I put this? Give the power of these gifts to the devil, because they are not the devil's power. They are God's power. They are God's gift. And when we say that they are evil, we're giving all these gifts that are God-given to the devil. And that's not what this says. This says, I am given each and every one of you. And some people have more than one gift. I am kind of a intuitive, and I pick up on a lot of emotions and feelings, and I pick up on like when I do my readings and stuff, I can pick up on images, and the images tell me different stories. Like I did a reading yesterday with my oracle cards, and they just told a perfect story. Each card just told a perfect story and answered the 3 questions that I had in front. So, and it's not me that does it. I'm not doing this. This is spirit. This is God. And sometimes it's not God. Sometimes it's my spirit guides. Sometimes it's your spirit guides that want to get you a message, or loved ones that have passed on. They come through us. It could be archangels. It could be, other angels and ascended masters. These messages come from any deity that brings forth a message that needs to be put out there. And if I were practicing in a negative, low energy way, then those energies would come through. But I don't practice in that way, and I won't practice in that way. I just recently, had to make it very clear that I need to put boundaries around my world, my life right now, because someone I care very deeply for has energies around them that I can't get mixed up with. My daughters, who I love, I adore them, but there's energies I can't be part of. I just, there's mindsets that I have to stay away from, because I'm not going to say they corrupt me, because I believe that God will protect me no matter what. But the energy level gets very drained, and I'm sure you've heard of energy vampires, and if not, you have now. But they drain you, and when you get drained from these low energies, or these mindsets that think just this one way, it kind of like keeps you. It blocks you, like it puts a fence around me, and I feel like I feel stuck for a little while, and it's like I have to revamp on my own energies, to get back to where I was. And I don't know if it makes sense to you or not, but that's kind of like what I that's why I have to kind of protect my space at all times. And it's not because I don't love people. I do love people. I just can't always put myself around a lot of different energies that will bring me down. And right now in my life, I kind of have been absorbed around a lot of lower energies, and I just really need to get back on track, focus back on God and Spirit and Scripture, and not necessarily just this Bible, but other sacred text, which to me is more of the truth. And I've been really doing a lot of cleansing, I guess, cleansing. So, I don't know if this has been helpful for anyone else. I guess I'm just kind of venting. I don't know. But I know my journey is about service, and my journey is about God. My idea of Christ is probably very different than a lot of people. Um, I listened to someone yesterday, and she's been coming back, on the scenes, but she really went through a lot of hell. I was listening to her podcast yesterday, and I was pretty impressed, really. And it was Roseanne Barr, and she was talking about, Judaism and Jewish people and true Jewish people. And where she was talking from, I could tell uh, that it was really from the heart, and it was from you know the the real Jewish beliefs and real Jewish culture, and I was pretty happy to hear that, because I hear a lot of people using the Jewish world to benefit uh, different things, and I just I found out very late in life that I am 25% Jewish, and I didn't know what to think about it at first, and as time has passed, and my mom passed, and the Jewish blood comes from DNA comes from my mom, and she didn't know her biological dad, who was Jewish. Um, so it's like a quarter of my being that I knew nothing about. Um, and I find it to be a very interesting part of who I am. Um, and I think it's a big part of my purpose in this world, and where I'm supposed to be going and what I'm supposed to be doing. So, I'm a work in progress. I am just a big old work in progress, and I will continue to be a work in progress. So, with that, I think it's about time that I let this all go, and let's just let me see if I can find a nice hymn to kind of go out with. There is one song that I absolutely, absolutely love, and it brings me such joy when I hear it. Not that one. Let me see. I don't know if I like that one. This one's shorter. Here we go. And I do. I love this song. I like it by Colin Ray. And with that, I hope you have a very blessed week, and that the rest of your day is of happiness and joy and love. And remember, love is the one thing that will destroy the devil. Love, happiness, joy. May that be on your goal list.
I will make the darkness bright. Who will bear my light to end? Whom shall I send? Here I am. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go if you lead me. I will hold your people in my I'm the Lord of soul and reign. I have borne my people's pain. I have wept for love and they turn away. I will break their hearts of stone. Give them hearts for love alone. I will speak my words to man. Whom shall I say? Here I am. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. Will go if you leave me. I will hold your people in my heart.
So with that, I will hold you all in my heart. It may hold you hold others in your heart too. Go with love, go with peace, go with happiness, and do not let the devil conquer you at all. Bye bye.